What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing well. I don't know about you, but for me, I have an easy time finding resources to help clients manage anger in general, but I have a bit of a harder time finding information about how to help clients manage angry outbursts when they're happening live in session. So in today's video, I thought I might as well share the approach that I've kind of honed in on, generally speaking, for when one of my clients is having an angry outburst in session. And the disclaimer that applies in just about every video is I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert on anger or angry outbursts, but I am a therapist and I do have clients who get angry, so I'm just sharing the tools that I've come to develop over time. Ideally, we love it if we can catch the anger and address it before it turns into a full-on outburst. But sometimes we may not catch the clues depending on our client, or for some clients who haven't developed enough emotion regulation skills yet, it's possible for them to go from 0 to 100 in an instant without any forewarning. When I'm talking about angry outbursts, I'm referring to diffuse physiological arousal. Try saying that 2 times fast. A lot of folks in the field refer to this as emotional flooding, or it's often referred to as the fight or flight response. Our brain and our body enters an emergency response mode, and it shuts down the prefrontal cortex, which is the part that we tend to be speaking to when we're doing our sort of processing in therapy. Now, the reason our bodies shut down this section of the brain is to optimize efficiency in case of emergency. While I'm talking about this, my mind goes to that fire drill scene in The Office where Dwight tries to simulate a fire by lighting an actual fire, and he's trying to use, logic and reasoning to help everyone stay calm, think clearly about the procedure. Meanwhile, it's absolute chaos because everyone is panicking. There is no reasoning with that activated state once we've gotten there. I'm so sorry. There is some sort of airplane swirling around. It's not stopping and getting louder, so the show must go on. Now, if I completely miss the memo that my client is emotionally flooded and I keep trying to explore what's coming up for them, it can actually have the opposite effect where they feel misunderstood and invalidated. I'm just really angry. Okay, let's take a look at it. Where do you think the anger might be coming from? I don't know, okay? God, you don't even understand. So instead, what I like to do is when this happens, I pause whatever it was we were doing and pivot our focus towards calming the nervous system while increasing my client's ability to tolerate the discomfort of all of the emotions that are going on. Okay, now that I've talked your ear off probably for way too long, let's actually talk about what I do when I see that my client is having an angry outburst. First, as soon as I catch on to it, I like to validate the anger. I'm just really angry. Okay, I can see that we just touched on something really upsetting. And I know how tempting it can be to become defensive when our clients have an angry outburst at us, but it's so important not to become defensive. In fact, usually when we become defensive, it just causes the emotional intensity to go up even more for our clients because they feel invalidated. They feel like we don't understand. I do understand. I'm here to help you. And then I let my client know that we're going to pause whatever it was we were doing so that I can make sure they're okay and tend to what's coming up for them. I can see we really struck a chord in this conversation, so let's pause this topic for a moment. I just want to make sure that we're not causing your system to get emotionally overloaded. Then I like to check in to see how distressed my client is. Some people refer to this as their SUDS, which stands for subjective units of distress. If that's a term that you're already using with your clients, you could always just say, what's your SUDS? If it's not already in your repertoire to use SUDS with your client, this isn't a good moment to explain SUDS because, again, the prefrontal cortex is not engaged. Okay, I just want to check in for a second to see how intense things are for you right now. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest level of distress you've ever experienced, and 1 being so chill that you're practically falling asleep, where would you rate your emotional distress right now? Like a 9 out of 10? Okay, so your system is really overloaded. At this point, if this is the first time that this has come up in therapy, then I let them know that we're about to pivot into some tools to help calm their nervous system. So your system is completely overloaded. Let's pivot away from what we were talking about for a moment and help calm your system down before we come back to where we left off. And then I step into utilizing a tool or sometimes multiple tools that can help calm the client's nervous system or increase their ability to tolerate how uncomfortable the distress is while they ride the wave of the emotional activation. And during this phase in the process, it's very important that whatever tools we're using are helping the client mentally step away from whatever the threatening feature was that activated their anger. If they're going through the motions of whatever tool you're utilizing, but in their mind they're still seething in anger, thinking about whatever was upsetting to them, then it's just going to prolong that activation state. Here are some of my go-to tools that I'm willing to try with almost everyone to see which ones work for this client. First, I always like to have some mindfulness technique at the ready at all times, like on call. If I need a mindfulness technique, I have one. More recently, I've started using a brief recording on panic from Headspace that's available for free on YouTube. At any point, I can just hit play and Andy Petticombe can take the baton away. If you're interested, I'll link to that particular recording below so you can check it out too. Another tool I like to use in a moment like this is body movement. You have all this pent up energy that might be helped if you could kind of let it out of your body. Even intense clapping for a bit of time can release that energy, or even if your client likes to kind of shiver, then that's another way that you can encourage your client to let some of that energy out. If we're doing an intentional body movement together, I like to do it together with my client just so that they feel supported as they're trying to calm their nervous system. You can also do a deep breathing exercise or a progressive muscle relaxation exercise, anything that kind of distracts your client's mind from whatever is upsetting them. I found that some clients also find it really helpful to have something physical, tactile that they can interact with to help distract their mind. So I like to have some sort of like fidget toy, brain teaser puzzle, or even like coloring available for a client to utilize, as long as they're coloring about something that they find relaxing. If I've run through these strategies and my client is just incredibly activated, then another tool that I'll try is something incredibly cold. If you meet virtually, you can encourage your client to see if they have something like this in their freezer that they can either hold in their hands or even better place on their head if it's safe to do so. Then that can help calm the nervous system. If somebody is immersed in something cold, then it sort of hijacks the physiological system to calm down. And if somebody is immersed in something warm, then it activates the system. Now, often as I go through some of these tools, I can kind of tell just by watching my client how they're doing. I mean, if you've ever been with a client when they're in the middle of an angry outburst or a panic attack or anything that's at that level of activation, you can usually see it all over their body. Usually, once I see that my client looks like they're starting to calm down a bit, I'll check in again on their level of activation. Okay, I want to check in again. On a scale of 1 to 10, how intense is your anger right now? About a 4. Now, if you check in and the intensity is still pretty high, like it's only come down 1 notch, then just keep coming back to some of these same tools. It may just be a matter of enough time needing to pass for the nervous system to calm down and ride out the wave. And then once their system has calmed down by about half on that 1 to 10 scale, that's when I like to debrief what happened and make plans for whenever this might come up again. Okay, I realize I took us on this giant pivot without explaining what we were doing, so let me kind of go back and debrief what we just did together. So I saw that you were getting activated, and we know from research that once we get past like a 7 or an 8 out of 10 on that scale, our bodies are so activated that we're no longer able to access reason anymore. So we can't sit down and kind of talk through what was making you feel angry. All humans go there when we feel like there's a big threat, so it's completely normal. And it was important that we pause to help you come back down a few notches before entering back into our conversation again. You did a great job following my lead, so thanks for pivoting with me. How are you feeling now? Still angry, but I feel like I can stay more calm now. I'm wondering if you're feeling ready then to potentially go back and rewind, see if we can figure out where it was in our session that you noticed the anger start to come up for you. And then you can invite your client to also debrief, like which of those tools were helpful? Was there anything that I said or did in there that wasn't helpful? So that next time an angry outburst comes, we can kind of streamline our process and help them get to center a little bit sooner. And if there's time and if it's appropriate, you might also consider reflecting on whether this type of angry outburst ever happens for the client outside of your sessions? And if so, to reflect together on which of these tools might be applicable that they could start trying and using live in the moment. I've noticed in time that with practice, a lot of clients will start implementing these skills without me initiating it. They will tell me, I need to pause, we're getting close to that threshold, or even I crossed that threshold, can you help me? I can tell I'm starting to get angry. I haven't crossed that threshold yet. I'm at like a 5 out of 10. But I think I need to pause from our conversation. Or they might start utilizing some of the mindfulness practices, some deep breathing, or fidgeting with something that helps them feel grounded, whatever it might be, without me needing to prompt. And that is a wonderful thing when that starts happening. Well, that about sums up how I tend to approach, most of the time, angry outbursts in session. I haven't touched on things like if you believe that you're in any sort of danger when this happens, or if it becomes a pattern and it keeps escalating, that it's getting worse and worse for your client each time it happens. We'll save that maybe for a different video. For today, I just wanted to touch on some tools to help de-escalate a client when they're in that state. And before we close, I'd like to thank TherapyNotes.com for sponsoring this video. TherapyNotes helps with all of your practice management needs, from scheduling to notes to billing. They have a HIPAA-secure telehealth platform included for all users, and so much more. If you'd like to check out Therapy Notes, you can get 2 months to try it for free with no commitment just by clicking the link in the description of this video. Well, I hope you found this helpful. Maybe you clicked on this episode because you're navigating a client who's going through a lot of angry outbursts in session and you just need a little support. If that's you, I see you, it happens, and there are hopefully some tools that can help you. And if it is happening on repeat with your clients, I definitely encourage you to get some consultation as well to make sure you're supported as much as possible and that your clients are getting the best care that they can. And until next time, from one therapist to another, I wish you well. Another tool I like to try in a moment like this, a moment like this.